Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I found a really interesting guitar on Reverb a couple of nights ago that I wanted to share with you guys. It was listed by Lovey's in California, they're a pretty reputable shop, as a one-of-a-kind Gibson custom shop Les Paul Elegant in a cherry sunburst finish, but here's the real kicker, with rare diamond inlay and certificate of authenticity. You guys know me, I had to check out what this rare diamond inlay situation was. And at an asking price of $3,500, that's not bad on an Elegant. So before we dive into this, let's do a quick brief history. You can check out this review right here if you want to learn more in-depth details, but essentially, the Les Paul Elegant is one of the earliest custom shop chambered out guitars that had a long run, from approximately 1997 until 2004. Before that, we had the Catalinas, that only lasted for 1 year. But they had a variation that looked like this, that had a custom shop banner on them, and then they eventually swapped over into a more traditional looking style. Then you can also find some interesting Elegants, like my Mummy is technically just a 1P90 Elegant. And then you also have the Elegant Alloy series that you can check out. So let's take a look at this one. I can tell right away just by looking at this is one of the later made ones. So it has what I consider a less special top. The flame is just what you would see on a lot of custom shops at this time. It's not a super overly fancy quilt top. It interestingly has uncovered zebra bobbin pickups on here. Nashville style bridge, as these guys will have. If you look really closely here, it looks like somebody's replaced some knobs here because you've got two golden amber bell knobs and then you got the straight up golden ones. That's not right, somebody's been playing with that. But no pickguard's ever been installed on this, so some guys like Elegants for that. And we've got the abalone inlay that these things are known for. Okay, so nothing too out of the ordinary right now. But then this photo starts to show us what they were talking about in the title. Alright, so there's a few things that don't make sense on this one. We have a first fret inlay. That's something that these things didn't normally have, and most Les Paul standard style instruments just don't, unless you're Pete Townsend. But then get this, the headstock has a Les Paul custom inlay on it. You know, the whole split diamond as they call it. And that's also done up in abalone. So it's like, all right, custom order Les Paul Elegant with like a custom style headstock veneer. All right, but our Gibson logo is done up in mother of pearl. We don't have any binding on the headstock, so that's kind of why it looks a little bit out of place to have that. So that certainly makes it interesting, having both the first fret inlay and that there. So let's look at the rest of this. The back is just a regular cherry color. It's got regular back plates, nothing too crazy. It looks to be in pretty good shape. Not too much wear and tear on it. We've got a Gibson custom shop decal, as well as a regular ink stamp serial number. Everything's looking okay. I can't quite tell what the side marker inlays are made out of. A lot of these Elegants will also have abalone there, but that might have changed on a later run Elegant. Honestly, I've never owned one. I've always owned the earlier series ones. So all this being backed up by a fairly reputable shop, it made me really curious about this piece. Because let's be real here, a custom order one-of-a-kind Les Paul Elegant done up with some very fancy attributes none of the other ones have. For $3,500, that's a steal. This is easily, if this is what they're actually saying it is, a $5,500 guitar. I mean, you can look here, sometimes you can get Elegants as cheap as $3,000, other times they're $4,500, and then the more unique custom ones, they can sell for a lot. Because let's face it, there are some guys that collect these Elegants because they're just kind of interesting guitars. But here's a good look of what one would normally look like with a regular headstock and not the first fret marker. Serial number is very similar, the neck, the body finish. Typically we do have covers on the pickups, that's something else that's kind of special, but here you see our knobs, they match. So let's read our description here. So they tell us one-piece mahogany neck, warm-toned mahogany body. Okay, I think it'd be more pertinent for them to put in that it's a chambered mahogany body instead of warm tone. Then they just go on to tell us about the carved top, and the inlays are abalone, yep. And then a rare headstock inlay of abalone as well, okay. It does have the compound radius ebony fretboard, so that's one of the things that makes an Elegant as well. And they continue to say it's in pretty good shape with just a few minor impressions. Back has an indent and a few marks, 8.5. All original, get this, except for everything's been changed. Oh, I always get a kick reading that in a description. Like, I know what they mean, it's all original but these parts, but it's not all original, you know? I even do it sometimes. Okay, so they're saying the pickups are not stock. It says / installed, upgraded 500K pots, bumblebee caps, a bone nut and medium jumbo refret, no breaks or cracks. Okay, so first off, I think we're missing a word here. Or are they really saying that / came to their shop and installed those? I think they meant / signature pickups, something along those lines. Typos happen to the best of us. Let's not get too far into that. But yes, if you looked at these photos very carefully, you can see we do not have fret nibs on it. And that's kind of what made me leery of this example. It seems like they're suggesting that this first fret inlay is original, as is the headstock. However, I'm just not sure. Like, I'm a gambling man. I take risks on guitars, I do the research, I try to verify them, and then I reap the rewards and benefits for sharing them with you guys, and then I get to sell them. This is one I don't believe it. If somebody is willing to refret a custom shop Gibson guitar, swap out the nut, they're definitely also willing to have the headstock redone, add a new inlay on it, do a refinish most likely, and add a first fret inlay. That was my gut feeling on this one, that it didn't leave the factory with the two most unique modifications. Because as you can see here, 2 of the knobs have also been replaced. Now we know the pickups are also replacements. Like, if all that other work hadn't been done, I would have been willing to believe this. We can look at the COA to maybe see if that has any reference to all this other stuff, but it's just Custom Shop Elegant. I'm not sure what CST stands for necessarily. Cherry, Sunburst, T, Translucent. That doesn't make too much sense, but it might have something to do with the color. I'm not sure. But what's nice is I guess we could have called up Gibson with this serial number to see if they had any records of it. But as far as, you know, having first fret inlay, all that stuff mentioned, probably not. It would just pull up a Les Paul Elegant. However, it could have been a custom order that somebody just played so much that it needed refretted. But for me, it just wasn't worth the risk. So I'll be interested to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Do you think it actually left the factory looking like this and it just had these other personal modifications made to it later on? Or do you think somebody just took a regular Les Paul Elegant and modified it? Either way, it's kind of an interesting guitar at this point, and it was priced as modified, but advertised as original. So even if it turns out something has been done to this, whoever bought this, you still got a fair price. No harm, no foul. Maybe a blacklight test would help us determine if that was original, but that would be only if they never refinished any of the other areas on the guitar too. But I have a couple more I wanted to share with you tonight, after that cool Elegant. So we've got this EDS 1275. Somebody please rejog my memory, because I know we've seen this on the show before. Because I remember questioning this thing. Was it factory original? Because that is a weird, goofy looking pickguard. It's kind of like a Batman symbol right here directly in the middle that just encompasses the whole stop bar tailpiece you've got going on here. Because normally an EDS 1275 double neck, it looks like this. It still has something to encapsulate your neck selector switch, just not your tail pieces. So that makes this interesting. But what you have to know about these double neck guitars is in the early 70s, they were custom orders only. So it makes sense that this could be factory stock. But let's take a look at the rest of this, see if there's anything that can give us any more hints as to whether this is actually factory original or not. Looking on the back, I mean, everything's looking okay here. Looking at our headstock, it's my least favorite era of these double necks. They don't get the Gibson mother of pearl logos, they get the boring silk screens. If I'm gonna spend crazy money on a double neck, I want them to be fancy. But hey, how about this for being fancy? First off, we've got these giant volutes, which just tells you that's a Kalamazoo made instrument. It's listed as a 74, but my goodness, I would believe that this is a 1980, because late 70s, early 80s, that's when Kalamazoo, they start to fully embrace the volute. Like at first, those weren't on the 50s Gibsons, we don't want them, but then at the end, they start to embrace them, and they just make these giant, massive things. I can't quite make out our serial number, so maybe it is a little bit later than they thought. But the biggest thing, I don't think I've ever seen this on a double neck before. Check this out. Do you see these Schaller tuners? So we recently talked in this episode, the one-piece top Les Pauls, that Gibson factory employees often like to use these tuners on their guitars because they were seen as the premium tuner back then. I mean, even today, these Gibson branded Schallers held up incredibly well. Much better than the Klusons of the era. So the fact that you see on not only the 6-string side, but also the 12-string side, that makes me believe that yes, this left the factory like that because you don't see any other tuner holes back here. I know it seems crazy to get worked up about tuners, but these are pretty heavy tuners, so it wouldn't surprise me if this guitar is neck heavy, having not only 6, not only 12, but 18 of them on your headstocks. So they're asking $13,000, which they are definitely looking for a premium for the custom ordered one-off status of this weird looking pickguard. But apparently the story goes this was custom ordered by the original owner as a 13th birthday present. What kind of 13-year-old needs to be rocking this thing? That's awesome. Alpine white finish makes it pretty nice. And the whole batwing pickguard, apparently 100% factory. But hold the phone here. What are they saying that? Mahogany dowels, he thinks they're dowels anyways, on both sides of each end piece. And they appear to be the reason for the ornate decorative pickguard. So they're saying in their experience, Gibson made plenty of goofs and in an attempt to cover it, made this pickguard for this particular guitar. See, that makes me think something happened to this guitar and then somebody made that to cover it up. Because let's see, all the other screw holes would pretty much line up, I would assume, and then you'd have 2 right there. So I guess one good way for them to prove that would be to post a photo publicly to make sure that there's not 2 screw holes in the body right there. Because he's essentially just calling this a giant goof hider. Which, I mean, there is some merit to what he's saying there, but we wouldn't have to do any refinish work in order to do a new custom pickguard. So the explanation here doesn't really help us with that. And it looks like the bridge pickup might have been swapped in and out on one of them. So this is another one that I just kind of wanted your guys' opinions on because there is no right or wrong answer because we don't have the guitar in our hands. And even if we did, outside of looking for those screw holes, we wouldn't be able to know for 100% sure. But I sure would be interested to see those wooden dowels that he's talking about. And to go back to these tuners again, he's probably right with the probably later 75 style because that's when Gibson starts to use these. But man, those volutes just make me think much later than that anyways. So it's funny how these tuners install enough faith in me to believe that, okay, this just might be factory original. Alright, Troglodytes, that's gonna do it for tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.